of changing people softly, slowly, then all at once. For Lianne Cruz, summers at Coral Bay had always been predictable. Quiet mornings at the beach house, pancakes cooked by her mom, and endless afternoons where nothing ever truly happened. But this year felt different the moment she stepped out of the car. The air tasted sweeter. The ocean shimmered brighter, and her heart felt strangely awake. Because this was the first summer she would see Mara Velasco again. Mara, the childhood friend who used to race her to the shoreline, who wrote her silly poems in the sand, who disappeared for 2 years without warning. Mara, who was no longer the shy, sunburned girl with messy braids, but a confident, breathtaking young woman who seemed to bloom under the golden light. And when Mara turned around that morning by the porch, the wind lifting her hair, their eyes met like the earth paused just to let them remember each other. Lianne's breath caught, because this summer she wasn't the only one who changed. Mara did too, and suddenly everything felt possible. Summer wasn't just warm, it was dangerous, it was awakening. It was love waiting to happen. The screen door creaked as Lianne stepped onto the porch, dragging her suitcase behind her. The familiar scent of salted breeze and sun-soaked wood wrapped around her like an old memory. She didn't know why her heart was beating so loudly until she saw her. Mara Velasco was leaning against the porch railing, the late morning sun painting her skin in gold. Her once wild hair was now long, styled, and effortlessly falling over her shoulder. She looked calm, almost too calm, like she'd been expecting this moment. Lianne froze. Mara straightened, her lips parting in a small, careful smile. "Hey," she said softly, like the word belonged only to Lianne. Lianne swallowed. "Mara, you're here early. I wanted to help you settle in." Mara pushed off the railing and walked closer. Her eyes, warm and deep brown, searched Lianne's face as if memorizing every tiny change. "You look different." Lianne's pulse tripped. "Different good or different bad?" Mara's smile widened, slow and sincere. "Different. Beautiful." The suitcase slipped from Lianne's hand and thudded on the wooden floor. Mara laughed short, gentle, familiar, and in that moment, it felt like the missing summers between them disappeared, like they were 14 again, barefoot on the shore, daring each other to swim farther. But now they were older. Now there were unspoken things lingering in the space between them, questions, regrets, a strange aching excitement neither could name. "Come on," Mara said, brushing a strand of hair from Lianne's cheek with casual intimacy that sent shivers down her spine. "Let's catch up. I've missed a lot." Lianne's voice barely worked. "I've missed you too." They stood there for a few seconds, eyes holding, neither daring to step away. Until Mara finally whispered, almost like a secret carried by the wind, "This summer, I want things to be different." Lianne's breath hitched. Different. Beautiful. Dangerous. She had no idea yet. But this was the summer everything would change. The afternoon sun hung low, shimmering over the water as the waves rolled lazily toward the shore. Lianne walked beside Mara, their footsteps sinking into the warm sand. It felt unreal, like she had stepped into one of the many daydreams she used to have during the 2 summers Mara was gone. They stopped where the waves gently touched their toes. Mara inhaled deeply, eyes on the horizon. I forgot how much I missed this place. Lianne glanced at her. You forgot a lot of things, she said softly, more honest than she meant it to be. Mara turned her head, a flicker of guilt passing in her eyes. Yeah, I did. Silence stretched, but not the painful kind, more like both of them were searching for the right words. Mara nudged her elbow lightly. Are you mad at me? Lianne looked away. I'm not mad, just confused. You disappeared. No texts, no calls, no explanation. Mara took a step closer until their shoulders brushed. I know, and I'm sorry. Another pause. It wasn't you, it was me. I wasn't ready to face things back then. Lianne frowned. Face what? Mara's eyes softened in a way that made Lianne's chest tighten. Feelings I didn't know how to deal with. The wind grew warmer, wrapping around them like a secret. Before Lianne could speak, Mara crouched down and started drawing circles in the sand with her finger tiny, swirling loops that reminded Lianne of the silly doodles they used to make together. Do you remember this? Mara asked. Lianne knelt beside her. Your infinity circles. You said they meant something that never ends. Mara smiled faintly. They still do. She drew another circle, but this time she connected it with Lianne's. A small gesture, simple and innocent, yet it felt like a confession. Mara, Lianne whispered. Why did you come back now? Mara lifted her gaze, the wind tugging gently at her hair. Because I wanted to find out if something between us didn't end either. Lianne's heart thudded so hard it felt like the whole beach could hear it. Mara stood, brushed sand off her hands, and offered her a hand. Come on, I want to show you something. Lianne took her hand, warm, soft, familiar, and let herself be pulled up. In that moment, everything felt clearer. Mara didn't return for the beach, or the memories, or the summers they lost. She came back for her. Mara led Lianne back to the beach house, their hands brushing every now and then, never fully holding, but never really pulling away either. The sun had dipped low, painting the sky in soft pink and tangerine. It was the golden hour, and every time Lianne glanced at Mara, the light caught her face just right, almost too perfectly. They climbed the wooden stairs to the second floor. Mara paused in front of the room at the end of the hallway, the one with the yellow curtains fluttering through the window. Lianne blinked. This was your old room. Yeah, Mara said quietly. I fixed it up earlier. I wanted you to see it. When Mara pushed the door open, Lianne's breath faltered. The room was warm and sunlit, the walls soft white, the bed freshly made. Seashells decorated the shelves. A small vase with dried lavender sat by the window. It looked lived in, personal, intentionally prepared. For me? Lianne whispered. Mara tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear. You always loved this room more than I did. I thought you might want it back. Lianne stepped inside slowly, noticing something else, something more intimate. Pinned on the corkboard were old photographs. Their photographs. The two of them at age 11, grinning with sandy faces. 14 holding melting ice cream. 15. The last summer they spent together. She hadn't seen these in years. Her voice trembled. You kept all of these? Mara leaned against the door frame, arms crossed loosely. Every single one. But why? Lianne turned to her, eyes uncertain. Mara hesitated for only a moment. Then she walked inside, stopping just a breath away from her. Because you were the one thing I never wanted to let go of. Lianne felt her chest tighten, her skin warming from the inside out. Mara smelled like lavender and sea salt, like something painfully familiar. You could have told me, Lianne whispered. I wasn't brave enough, Mara admitted. But I'm trying now. Their eyes locked, neither moving, until Mara reached for something on the shelf. A small seashell bracelet, one they made together when they were kids. String frayed, shells uneven. I fixed it, Mara said softly. Thought you might want it. Lianne gently took the bracelet, her thumb brushing over the shells. It was such a small thing, yet somehow it felt like Mara was handing her a piece of her heart. Mara, Lianne's voice cracked. Why now? Mara looked straight at her, vulnerability in her eyes. Because this summer I don't want to run from you anymore. The room felt smaller, warmer, charged. Lianne's pulse pounded as she stepped just a little closer. So what do you want to do instead? Mara's voice was barely a whisper. Stay. The bracelet hung loosely around Lianne's wrist, its tiny seashells cool against her skin. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They just stood there, close enough to feel each other breathe, close enough that one small step could change everything. Mara's eyes dropped to Lianne's wrist. It still fits you, she murmured. Barely, Lianne whispered, trying not to tremble. I guess I grew. Mara lifted her gaze, slow and deliberate. Yeah, you did. The air shifted heavy, warm, humming with something unspoken. Lianne could feel her heartbeat everywhere. In her throat, in her fingertips, in the soft space between them. Mara took a tiny step forward. Lianne didn't step back. Her hand rose, hesitant at first, then gently brushed a loose strand of hair behind. Lianne's ear. The touch was feather light, but it sent a shiver racing down her spine. Mara's voice softened. I used to imagine what you'd look like now. And, Lianne whispered, more beautiful than I pictured? Lianne blinked fast, overwhelmed. She didn't know if she wanted to cry, smile, or pull Mara into her arms. Maybe all of it. Her voice came out small. You didn't have to leave. Mara's expression flickered sadness, regret, something deeper. I know, but I was scared. Of myself, of what I felt, of what you might feel. She exhaled shakily. Everything back then felt too big. Lianne swallowed the lump in her throat. And now? Now. Mara stepped closer until their foreheads were almost touching. Her breath warm against Lianne's cheek. The only thing that scares me is losing my chance with you. Lianne's breath hitched. The room fell silent except for the waves crashing softly in the distance and their hearts pounding in the same rhythm. Mara lifted a hand, fingertips grazing Lianne's jaw, trailing gently down her neck. Lianne leaned in just a little. Mara leaned in too. It would take one more inch, one inhale, one heartbeat. Their lips were a whisper apart. Then, knock, 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 a voice echoed through the hallway. Girls, dinner's ready. Lianne jerked back, almost stumbling. Mara blinked, frustration clear in her eyes as she quickly stepped away, running a hand through her hair. Oh my God, Lianne muttered, face burning. Mara let out a soft laugh, breathless, warm, resigned. saved by the bell, or ruined by it. Lianne grabbed the door handle, trying to calm her racing pulse. We should go. But before she left the room, Mara caught her wrist, gentle but firm. Lianne, she said softly, eyes searching hers. This isn't over. Lianne nodded. No, it's not. And as they walked downstairs together, shoulders brushing, fingers almost touching, both of them knew the almost moment would not stay almost for long. The dining room buzzed with warm chatter, clinking plates, and the smell of garlic butter and grilled fish. Lianne's family filled the long table, her mom laughing loudly, her brother reaching for rice, her aunt complaining about the heat. Everything was familiar. Everything except the way Mara sat beside her. Too close, too aware, too careful not to touch her, but wanting to. Every time Lianne shifted her knee, she felt Mara tense beside her. Every time she reached for something on the table, Mara's breath hitched like she was holding herself back. They had almost kissed upstairs. Almost. And now every second felt like it was glowing with that almost. Lianne stared at her plate, trying to focus on her food instead of the warmth radiating from Mara's arm. But she kept catching Mara's glances, tiny, secret glances that made her lose her appetite and her breath at the same time. So Mara, Lianne's aunt said suddenly, eyes sparkling with curiosity, you're staying the whole summer? Mara swallowed her water a little too fast. Yeah, I am. That's wonderful, her mom chimed in. You girls haven't been together in so long. Lianne and Mara exchanged a look. Her mom had no idea how true that was. We've got a lot to catch up on, Mara said quietly, glancing at Lianne with that soft, lingering gaze that felt like a promise. Lianne looked away before she melted into her chair. So Lianne, her brother cut in, smirking like he sensed something. Excited much? Lianne froze. What do you mean? You're glowing, he teased. You've been smiling since we arrived. I didn't know Mara had that effect. Lianne kicked him under the table. Mara bit her lip to hide her laugh, shoulders shaking. Dinner went on with casual conversation, but under the table things weren't casual at all. When no one was looking, Mara's hand brushed gently against Lianne's. A touch so light she could have imagined it. But then Mara did it again, and again, this time letting her fingers rest there, unmoving. Lianne's pulse stuttered. She didn't pull away. When dinner finally ended, Lianne stood up too quickly. I'll go get some air. Her mom blinked. You haven't finished your... I'm full! She rushed out onto the porch, the night breeze cooling her burning face. A minute later, she heard soft footsteps behind her. Mara joined her, leaning on the railing, their arms almost touching again. You okay? Mara asked, voice warm with concern and something else. I'm fine, Lianne said, staring at the dark waves. Just overwhelmed. With dinner? Mara smiled knowingly. Not just dinner. Mara's smile faded into something softer. More serious, more vulnerable. She turned to Lianne fully. You felt it too, didn't you? Lianne didn't answer. She didn't have to, because when their eyes met, the truth was unmistakable. Mara stepped closer, just a breath away, her voice a whisper that melted into the night air. That moment upstairs, I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. Lianne's heart slammed against her ribs. Me neither. Mara reached out slowly as if asking permission and gently slipped her fingers between Lianne's. This time Lianne didn't tremble. She squeezed her hand. Mara exhaled shakily, relief and longing all at once. "Can we try again?" she whispered. Lianne's lips parted. "Try what?" Mara leaned in, her forehead brushing lightly against hers. Their hands intertwined, breath warm and shaky. That almost kiss. The ocean roared softly behind them. The wind held its breath, and for the first time that summer, Lianne didn't. The night wrapped around them like a soft blanket, quiet, warm, almost protective. Crickets hummed in the background, and the moon cast a pale glow over the porch. Lianne could barely think, barely breathe, because Mara was standing so close she could feel every heartbeat vibrating between them. Mara's fingers tightened slightly around hers. "Lianne," she whispered, like the name meant something sacred. "If you don't want this, just tell me." Lianne didn't move away, didn't blink, didn't even try to fight the electricity crawling up her spine. "I want it," she whispered back. "I've wanted it for a long time." Something in Mara broke softly, relief, longing, maybe all the years they lost. She lifted her free hand and cupped Lianne's cheek, her thumb brushing softly along her skin as if memorizing the shape of her face. Lianne closed her eyes for half a second, letting the touch wash over her. When she opened them again, Mara was already leaning in. Slow, tentative, careful, like she was afraid this moment would disappear if she moved too fast. Lianne's breath hitched. Then their lips met. It wasn't fireworks at first. It wasn't loud. It was soft, so soft it made Lianne's knees weaken. A gentle press of lips that tasted like ocean air and every memory they never talked about. Mara kissed her like a question, like she was asking if it was okay to want her this much. Lianne answered by pulling Mara closer by the waist. That was when everything deepened. Mara gasped quietly against her mouth, her fingers sliding into Lianne's hair, their bodies aligned, warm and trembling. This time Mara kissed her fully, slow but sure, like she'd been waiting years for this moment. Lianne parted her lips, breath mixing with Mara's. The kiss grew warmer, more certain, more real. When they finally pulled back, both of them were breathless, foreheads touching, eyes closed, smiles trembling on their lips. Mara laughed softly, breath uneven. "I can't believe that actually happened." Lianne opened her eyes. It was supposed to happen. Mara traced the corner of her mouth with her thumb. Yeah, it always was. They stood there for a long moment, holding each other, listening to the waves crash gently on the shore. Then Mara whispered, barely audible, "I'm scared." Lianne's brows softened. "Of what?" "Of messing this up," Mara said quietly. "Of hurting you again, of wanting you too much." Lianne squeezed her hand. "Then don't run. Stay. Try with me." Mara's eyes glistened, hopeful, afraid. In love in a way neither of them could hide anymore. "I'll stay," she whispered. "I promise." Lianne brushed her nose against Mara's. "Good, because I'm not letting you disappear again." Mara smiled through the emotion cracking her voice. "Then don't let go." "I won't," Lianne said. And under the moonlit sky they kissed again. Slower this time, deeper, with all the fear and longing and years they wasted tangled between them. Because tonight they weren't running. Tonight, summer finally began. The sunlight slipped through the yellow curtains the next morning, scattering soft gold across Lianne's face. She blinked awake slowly, her mind still foggy from sleep. but then she remembered. The porch, the moonlight, Mara's lips. Her heart fluttered so hard she had to sit up. The house was quiet, except for the faint clatter of dishes from downstairs. Lianne pressed a hand to her chest, still feeling the echo of last night. Her lips tingled like the memory hadn't faded at all. She took a deep breath, got dressed, and headed to the kitchen. Mara was already there, wearing one of Lianne's old hoodies, hair in a loose ponytail, barefoot, humming softly as she flipped pancakes. Lianne froze in the doorway. Mara turned, and her whole face lit up. "Good morning," she said softly, smile spreading slow and sweet. Lianne's heart flipped. "Morning?" Mara held up the spatula like she was confessing to a crime. "I'm trying not to burn these. No promises." Lianne crossed her arms, trying and failing not to blush. "You hate cooking." "I know," Mara said with a small grin. "But you like pancakes." Lianne tried to play it cool. Pretty bold move for someone who almost set her kitchen on fire once. "That was one time," Mara protested, cheeks warming. "And besides, you saved me." "From your own cooking?" "Yes, I did." They both laughed, soft, new, slightly shy. The air felt different now. Thicker. Warmer. Like something shifted and neither of them knew how to go back. Mara placed a plate on the table. "Sit, eat, please." She hesitated. You want space today?" Lianne sat immediately. "I don't." Mara exhaled in relief and took the seat, beside her close enough that their knees touched under the table. Neither pulled away. For a few minutes they ate in comfortable silence. Then Mara spoke, voice quieter. "Last night felt real." "It was real," Lianne said. Mara looked down at her hands. "I'm still scared, you know." "I know," Lianne whispered. "Me too." Mara looked at her, then really looked. "But I'm not running." "Good," Lianne said with a smile. "Because I'm not letting you." Mara's eyes softened. She reached for Lianne's hand under the table. Their fingers intertwined naturally, like they'd done it 1,000 times. But this time was different. This time it meant something. "I missed you," Mara murmured. Lianne's voice cracked a little. "Then don't leave again." "I won't." Mara squeezed her hand. "Not unless you tell me to." "I won't," Lianne said immediately. "Not ever." Mara breathed out a shaky laugh, half relief, half overwhelmed feeling. "Okay." She rubbed her thumb across Lianne's knuckles. "So, what are we now?" Lianne blinked. "What do you want us to be?" Mara swallowed. "I don't know how to say it without messing it up." "Try." Mara took a breath, then another. Her voice came out soft but certain. "I want to be yours, if you'll have me." Lianne didn't think. Didn't hesitate. She leaned forward and kissed her. A short, warm kiss that tasted like pancakes and promise. When she pulled back, she whispered, "I already am." Mara's smile was the brightest thing in the room. And just like that, the day after their first kiss became the day they stopped pretending. The day warmed quickly, sunlight spilling across the beach like a soft invitation. After breakfast, Lianne and Mara walked along the shoreline, bare feet sinking into the wet sand. The water brushed their ankles with every step, cool and teasing. Their hands brushed for the 20th time, and every time Lianne felt sparks. Every time Mara fought a smile, it still felt surreal. They were them now, not just childhood friends, not just almost, but something real. Still, they hadn't told anyone. Not yet. Mara glanced around, checking if anyone was near before taking Lianne's hand properly, this time fingers, intertwining with boldness. "She didn't have last night." Lianne giggled. "Why are you acting like we're smuggling diamonds?" "Because your brother is literally on the balcony staring at us," Mara whispered. Lianne looked up, and sure enough, her brother was squinting like a detective from a crime show. "Oh my God," she muttered, dropping Mara's hand. Mara groaned. "I just want one peaceful moment." "You'll get 0 as long as he's alive." They walked farther down the beach, away from curious eyes, until it was just them, the waves and the seagulls. Mara slowed to a stop. Her tone softened. "Do you think we should tell them?" Lianne hesitated. "About us?" Mara kicked a shell gently. "I don't want to hide you. But I also don't want people to assume things before we're ready." Lianne nodded. "We don't owe anyone an explanation." Mara looked at her, eyes warm. "So it'll be our secret. For now?" Lianne stepped closer. "For now." Mara's smile returned small, relieved, only for her. They walked again, calmer now, until Mara noticed something glinting in the sand. She bent down, picked it up, a small, heart-shaped sea glass, pale blue and smoothed by the ocean. She held it out. "For you." Lianne blinked. "Why?" Mara shrugged. "Because every time I look at it, I want it to be yours." Her cheeks warmed. "That's cheesy." "You like cheesy." "I tolerate cheesy." "You love cheesy." "Shut up." But she took the sea glass anyway. They sat near the water, waves grazing their legs. Mara leaned back on her hands, face tilted toward the sky. "Do you ever think," Mara said softly, "that we were supposed to find our way back? No matter what?" Lianne looked at her. Really looked. Wind in her hair, sunlight on her skin, heart in her eyes. "Yes," Lianne said quietly. "I think I knew that, even before I understood it." Mara turned her head slowly, eyes meeting hers. "Lianne? Can I... Girls!" They both jolted. Lianne's mom was waving from the distance, motioning them to come back. "Ice cream run, hurry!" Mara groaned into her palms. "Why does the universe hate timing?" Lianne laughed, pulling her up. "Come on." Mara intertwined their fingers for half, a second before letting go, just in case someone saw. As they made their way back, Mara whispered in her ear, "That can I question isn't gone." "I'm saving it." Lianne shivered. "Good." And though they didn't kiss this time, didn't hold hands openly, didn't make any dramatic declarations, something shifted. They weren't hiding their feelings, just protecting them. For now, the ice cream run turned into a full family outing store. Boardwalk, photos, laughter. Lianne enjoyed it. But every time Mara brushed past her, or smiled from a few steps behind, or handed her a cone with that soft gaze, Lianne felt her chest tighten. They were pretending, but their eyes weren't. By mid-afternoon, everyone was exhausted. Back at the beach house, the family scattered to nap or watch TV. Lianne climbed upstairs to her room with a sigh of relief. She didn't expect Mara to follow her, but she did quietly, closing the door behind her with a soft click. Lianne turned. "You okay?" Mara nodded, but her eyes were intense, like she'd been holding back something all afternoon. "You said earlier, you saved the question," Lianne said. Mara stepped closer, stopping just an arm's length away. I did. The room felt suddenly smaller, thick with unspoken things. Lianne's heartbeat quickened. So ask it. Mara took a breath, and then another. She looked nervous, almost shaking, but also determined. Lianne, her voice was soft but steady. Can I love you? For real this time? Without running away? Lianne's breath caught. It wasn't a dramatic confession. It wasn't loud or cinematic. It was honest. Raw. Deep. Mara, Lianne whispered, stepping closer until their foreheads touched. You already do. Mara let out a shaky laugh. I was afraid you'd say no. I was afraid you'd never ask. Mara lifted her hand and cupped Lianne's jaw gently, the same soft touch she used when they first kissed. How long? She whispered. Lianne blinked. How long what? How long have you felt this? Lianne hesitated. Her voice was small but truthful. Since the summer you left? Mara's breath hitched, eyes softening painfully. I wanted to stay, she whispered. Every day I wished I'd stayed. You can stay now, Lianne said, sliding her hands around Mara's waist, pulling her closer. I want you to. Mara leaned into her touch like she'd been waiting years for this. I'm not going anywhere. Their lips brushed just the edges, warm and trembling before Mara kissed her again. Slower, deeper, more certain. Lianne melted into it, fingers curling into the back of Mara's hoodie. Mara's hands slid up her back, holding her like she finally found home. When they pulled back, both girls were breathless. Mara managed a smile. So, is that a yes? Lianne grinned. Yes. Mara pressed her forehead against hers, relief spilling from her in a soft exhale. I want to do this right, she murmured, even if we have to keep it secret for now. We will, Lianne said, tracing Mara's cheek with her thumb. Together. Mara kissed her again, short, sweet, a promise. Then she pulled back, suddenly shy. Can I stay here? Just for a while? Lianne nodded. You never have to ask that. They sat on the bed, side by side. Mara's head rested on Lianne's shoulder. Lianne's hand played gently with Mara's fingers. No big moment, no dramatic twist. Just two hearts finally allowed to rest beside each other. After a long silence, Mara whispered, almost in awe, We're really doing this, huh? Lianne kissed the top of her head. Yeah, we are. The sun began to dip lower, sending golden streaks through the curtains. Outside, the laughter of the family drifted faintly up the stairs. But in the room, time seemed to slow. Mara shifted slightly, nuzzling closer. I can't believe this is real, she murmured. It is, Lianne whispered, brushing a loose strand of hair behind Mara's ear. And it's ours. Mara lifted her head to look at her, eyes shining. I never want to let go. You won't have to, Lianne said softly, sliding an arm around her shoulders. We've got all the time we need. They leaned into each other, breathing in the quiet comfort of finally being together. Outside, the world went on, but inside that small room, nothing else mattered. For the first time in a long time, both of them felt home not in a place, but in each other. And that was enough. Sometimes love doesn't arrive with fireworks or grand gestures. Sometimes it's in the small moments, the brush of a hand, a shared laugh, a quiet promise. For Lianne and Mara, it was in every look, every touch, every heartbeat that finally said what words couldn't. Two hearts, once held apart, now finally allowed to rest together. And maybe that's the kind of love that lasts, the kind that feels like coming home.